of a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by... Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey everyone, welcome to Radio Free New York. This is Kevin Wilson, your host for the day. Thanks everyone for joining us. Here on WYSL, we'll be live noon to 1. We're also going live on Facebook on our Radio Free New York channel, our Andrew C. Hollister channel, YouTube, and Twitter. Thanks everyone who's going to be joining us there today. And of course, if you're joining us for the rebroadcast on WENY and WACK, welcome. Today, I have a guest who is from another state, Kevin Fortune, who's been a guest on this program before. Kevin Fortune, he's the King of Liberty, and he's from Atlanta, Georgia. And I wanted to get some perspective kind of outside New York State. How are other people thinking about the pandemic? How are other people thinking about this crisis? What are other states doing? How does it compare to what New York State is doing? And just try to get us thinking outside the box on what's appropriate, what the responses are, and what people in other states are experiencing in this crisis. So, Kevin Fortune, welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. Good afternoon.
All right, so Kevin, you're from Atlanta, right?
Correct.
All right, so in Georgia, it's not quite as bad as New York State. So what's going on down there?
Well, it's not quite as bad on the surface, but it's still bad. I was thinking of what the theme for this show would be, and I would call it, it's a matter of life and death. Not only physical life and death, but our nation's life and death, the health of the nation. Not only physically, but, just the society as a whole. People are dying here. One death is one too many, but I was looking up the statistics this morning based upon the Time Magazine database. We have 10,204 people that have tested positive in Georgia as of this morning. And we have had 370, that's 370 people that have died from corona. So it is still pretty bad down here.
Yeah. So, I mean, for sure, not a great thing. And I got the stats right up in front of me, too. And we've had a few people die in this area, too, the greater Rochester region as well. Unfortunately, I think the last count, was 37. Just in this county, in Monroe County alone, and then more in some of the surrounding counties. And most of what you see about New York State is mostly coming out of New York City. That's where most of the deaths have come from. That's where most of the cases have come from. Looking at one chart right here, there's like over 128,000, and that's probably outdated already. But, some people have been telling me they're looking at states like Georgia, and they're like, well, it's not so bad there. That it's their response must have been better or more appropriate. Georgia took a little bit longer to take action on shutting down some parts of the economy. And when they're looking at the raw numbers, they're saying, well, maybe it's a little bit better there, that the situation is as serious. So you disagree with that assessment?
Yes, because actually our first case was only reported on March the 2nd, later than other states. But since March the 2nd, which this is only April the 9th, we've had 370 die, and I'm sure some more have died since this morning. So that's, quite a lot of people that have died. In adverse to New York, we're seeing a lot of the deaths. Well, the majority of people that are infected are in Atlanta, Fulton County, but a lot of the deaths are outside in southern Georgia, South Georgia, in rural areas. They have not had the communication or the support from the government or health agencies like the bigger cities. So we're seeing, especially down in Albany, Georgia, we're seeing lots and lots of people die in small towns.
In small towns. I mean, is that stuff being tracked down there? Like, is there as much awareness of the seriousness of the situation? Is there a statewide shutdown in Georgia? I mean, again, people up here, like in Western New York, we're not paying much attention to what's going on down there, so we just don't know. And, I'm trying to get a gauge, like, is New York State, again, overreacting, underreacting? What's the appropriate way to approach this?
Shut down and everything, but I think it came a little late. It was like way at the end of March or April, which a lot of people had already been infected and had already infected other people. So, that was part of the problem. Once again, the government, they were a little nebulous, very cloudy, vague with their rules and what's to be shut down or whatever. I think they were following some bad leadership, even from our national officials. There's an old saying, if the head is crooked, the body can't be straight. So they were listening at, some of our national leaders, it's not a big thing. It'll be over with pretty soon. It's not going to, get that bad. And they took it, I think, a little lightly until it exploded. And then they wanted to just crash and shut down everything. But a lot of the seeds had already been sown.
All right, interesting. Yeah, I know the Georgia governor, Brian Kemp, that's the governor's name, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so he had gotten some flack because he had said that he wasn't aware that people were contagious prior to showing symptoms, and people were kind of roasting him on that.
Correct. And that's something that has bothered me, that, I'm not a professional in medicine, but neither are a lot of these politicians. I like to listen to the scientists, listen to someone with a doctorate degree from Stanford, not just somebody that's a politician that's just quoting stats or just talking, out of their head. And that has been a problem we're seeing with our government, where they have misled a lot of people, have hurt a lot of people because they're talking not with knowledge. And instead of letting the people with the knowledge do the talking, they're just trying to play party politics, make themselves look good, set themselves up for re-election, and they're actually hurting a whole nation.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I do want to point out, because I know some people who may be listening are thinking this, is that the mayor of New York City, Mr. de Blasio, he also said that he wasn't aware until a few days ago that the virus could be spread prior to being contagious. So it's not just a Georgia thing. This is the mayor of New York, who I think can be criticized quite appropriately for not acting with enough urgency in this situation in New York City, and now we see what that's looked like in such a densely populated area. So we've been watching that situation.
How could they not know?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else knew beforehand. I mean,
Right.
that seemed to be. I thought that was like kind of common knowledge, but apparently not.
Like once again, the scientists and the medical professionals have been saying that, or at least they've been cautious. The one thing with this that's not scary in a bad, but just, there is a lot of things. There's a lot of things they don't know. So let's err on the side of caution. But some of our politicians are so egotistical and egomaniacs, and they have such pride that they'll let the people suffer rather than just say, I'm wrong, or let's just, be cautious. But they won't do that. Their egos, their pride, their personal agendas have gotten in the way, and that's really what is offending a lot of people.
I mean, do you think that's what it is? I mean, I'll hear people that especially from like the libertarian and conservative side, who are saying, well, like the government is still overreacting. It's not like an ego thing. It's just that they shutting down the economy is a very serious thing.
Well, it's very serious. I mean, I do believe in being cautious with health, and I was just really reading some articles from Cato Institute about this earlier today, that the one thing about libertarians and even conservatives, we're not trying to get rid of all government. There is an effective use of government, but what we're seeing is it's not being effective. It's not being cautious for the people and really concerned with people's health or their well-being or protecting their rights. It's more about protecting their own agendas. You still see a lot of party politics. You're still seeing people play for re-election, and that is the thing. It's fine to shut some things down or have some rules, but you don't want to, when you infringe upon people's liberties, it becomes a problem. And what we're seeing with the government, once they infringe on your liberty, they never let it go. And that is what I've been looking at, the bigger picture.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing, and I know we have to go to a break in just a second, but I want to talk about the partisanship when we come back, and I also want to make sure that we talk about like what liberties are being infringed on, and I know you're seeing some of that stuff, in your area too, and I think it's something that we need to continue talking about. We can't let it go. We can't just say that this can be something that continues forever. So again, thanks so much for joining us today, Kevin Fortune. We will be back in just a few minutes here on Radio Free New York. Talk to you soon.
your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
College Assistance Plus has worked with thousands of families, saving them millions of dollars. It can be stressful choosing the right college, but we're here to help. CA Plus will guide you from college visits to college graduation and through every step in between. Each student and family situation is different, and we work to accommodate those specific needs. Call today for a free family meeting, 585-582-1846, or visit collegeassistanceplus.com for more information. College is expensive. College Assistance Plus can help.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
Okay, welcome back to Radio Free New York. Thanks again for listening today. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, and I'm joined by Kevin Fortune, who is a libertarian activist down in Georgia. And I think it's still a small L libertarian activist, right? Are you part of the Libertarian Party, Kevin? You still with the Republicans? You independent now? Where are you doing nowadays? Kind of both?
Great question. I'm part of everything. I'm more of an independent, but I'm still very well connected to the Libertarian Party. A lot of friends, do a lot of political consulting and help them fundraise and do activism. You know, we're all in this thing together, which is something people kind of, which is one of my big things, you know, crossing party lines, you know, getting the movement going, not just the partisan, but yes.
Yes. Yeah, the answer to that is yes, all the above. No, I love it, man. That's, you know, we love independent thinkers here on Radio Free New York, and I know you're just working to advance good policy and good activism. And, you know, we were kind of talking before the break about some of the partisanship that exists within the solutions to coronavirus. There's some strange stuff I see. Like it gets weirdly like tribal in how the solutions are, and it's not just like people are acting and posturing to make themselves look good in response. You know, and we talk about this on the show all the time, is seeing politicians who will take action for the sake of looking like they're taking action rather than taking action that will actually help people. You ever see that?
Oh, yes. That's what I was referring to. And I was just thinking of that because, Kev, you know, it's funny you asked the question. Primarily, I support Libertarian Party candidates and vote Libertarian pretty much. But what we've got to stop doing is just voting because of a party label or because of race, like they do a lot in Atlanta, or because of, ethnicity, things like that. And because it's really ruining our country. We vote for people, we need to vote for people and support people that live what they, and practice what they preach, is what I'm trying to say. And this is one thing that I'm seeing a lot of the quote unquote libertarians and even some of the conservatives that are elected officials, they talk about, cutting taxes, but they don't want to cut spending. They talk about free markets, but they're the first one to vote to infringe upon the free market system. And this is something that has really bothered me in this whole corona situation.
Well, do you have any specific examples of where you've seen that and where it's a problem?
I'm seeing it all throughout our nation, especially in our federal. I was just really surprised that, once again, I say I'm not anti the government or them not really helping people or trying to, intervene in a healthy way and an effective way, but just sending out checks and money to try to get more votes or to try to make themselves look good, or even when the congressman from Tennessee wanted to block the stimulus package, not based upon any evidence or any practical means, but just, it was a political stunt. And
Were you talking about Thomas Massie from Kentucky?
Yes, I'm sorry. Kentucky,
Thomas Massie. So, I might disagree with you on that one, because what Thomas Massie was trying to do is he said that, like, in the biggest spending bill in American history, constitutionally, the House is supposed to have a recorded vote on this. And he's saying, no, we should have a recorded vote on this. This shouldn't be a unanimous consent situation. And so Thomas Massie was trying to get a roll call vote on that issue. And I think maybe the only one who actually voted against it was Justin Amash, who's the independent congressman from Michigan. I don't know if you saw any of that. So you don't agree with that, though? You don't think that should have happened?
Well, no, I agree with I agree with the fundamentals of what he was doing. I agree with you. He was absolutely correct. But I think the way he did it, it was more of a stunt. And I guess maybe it was just he didn't know any better way, or, to present it. But it came out more as a political stunt, as grandstanding. But he was right, and that's a great point, Kevin, that a lot, what we see is a lot of our congressmen, and what we're seeing today with this corona is they're just forgetting the fundamentals, forgetting rules, forgetting procedure. Let's just make ourselves look good. Or they're running because of political, they're scared of the people. And they're more worried about their reputations. They're more worried about getting reelected or popularity in general. And, sometimes you have to go against the grain, and it might not be popular what you're doing, but it's the best thing, and it lines up with liberty. It lines up with conservatism, things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, and this is certainly an age where you have a lot of hard decisions, and I think that with the CARES Act, that's a huge decision for a lot of Americans. Again, it's a $2 trillion bill with probably more to come. But a lot of Americans saying, no, we need direct assistance right now. And a lot of companies are saying, well, if you don't bail us out, there's going to be a huge cascade effect throughout the economy. So, what's a member of Congress supposed to do in that situation? Are they supposed to just do nothing, or are they supposed to act in some way that's supposed to save us, even if that action isn't perfect?
Oh, Kevin, such a great question. You're my favorite interviewer. Well, this is my area. I majored in college in international finance and monetary policy. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I've researched a lot. But what it does is it really opens the bigger picture, which is the dysfunction of our government and the failure, the bad health of our financial system. It opens up the question of the effectiveness of the Federal Reserve and spending, overspending, things like this. Because, we couldn't stop the pandemic. Some things happen, but it's not what happens, it's how you deal with it. There are times to maybe help the people or intervene, but because our system is already so unhealthy and failed, there's no free market. Because we have so much government intervention and regulations, it was just such a bad timing, and it just really showed the failure of the system. And hopefully that we deal with not just the symptoms, but the actual root cause, if that makes sense.
That does make sense, and we should be dealing with the root causes. And I worry that in a lot of this, we're getting away from a free market system that's going to be able to better address some of these issues. And we've seen some tangible effects of that, both in terms of shutting down portions of the economy and controlling portions of the economy, and we see that in calls, weirdly enough, specifically among Democrats, mostly of nationalizing certain resources like medical equipment. What do you think of that?
Well, I do not agree with that.
Yeah, I figured, but
the reality. I'm all for helping people. I'm a great man of faith with strong Christian values, but I don't like anything that doesn't work. And that's what we're seeing, that if it worked, I would actually be all for it, but it doesn't work. And actually, in the long run, even the short run, we're seeing it's very ineffective. One reason that so many people have died in Georgia or around the nation is that they still haven't been tested. I actually have a really good friend that's a corporate executive that, because of his job in transportation, he's had to travel in some areas that were highly hit with the corona. He had some of the symptoms, very few symptoms, but just more on the cautious. But he could not even get tested because his symptoms weren't blatant and he wasn't really, quote unquote, sick, end of quote. So he couldn't even get tested, so he self-quarantined. It's just not working. And once again, we're just doing things, we're playing with people's lives. Once again, I said it's a matter of life and death.
Well, what's the barrier to that then? What's preventing people from getting testing?
Lack of tests. There's still there's still places that don't have the tests or the adequate number of tests. And once again, that's something that has offended me with our state politicians, especially here in Georgia, even that we've got tests, you can get tested. No, that's not true. There are a lot of places, if you don't have the symptoms, you can't get tested. And like you said at the beginning of this show, there are a lot of people that are positive that don't have the symptoms right away or the blatant symptoms. And that has helped hurt a lot of people that by the time they do get tested, it's almost too late, things like that. There's still a lack of medical equipment. Well, just pouring more money into a failed healthcare system that, is not, or nationalizing is not the answer. We know that when the government touches anything, they kill it. They don't just ruin it, they kill it. So why give more money to the people that created the problem? How are they going to solve it when they're the ones that's created the problem and made it worse?
Yeah, and I mean, one of the ways that we've talked about this frequently on the show is how like the CDC ended up getting in the way of testing, and it's not merely like rationing for its own sake. It's rationing because in some situations there's an actual lack of tests, that some places aren't able to get the testing supplies that they need because couple months ago when the CDC made their initial tests, they made tests that didn't work, and they prevented other private companies from being able to create their own tests. They finally lifted that a few weeks ago, and we're just starting to catch up on being able to have hospital systems and healthcare systems get enough tests to be able to actually figure out what the scale of the infection is.
Yeah. And so, let me comment on that, Kevin, because two great points came to mind when you were talking. You're so brilliant. You live up to your name.
Well, Kevin is a great name.
One thing we've had that same problem in Georgia is, once again, you've had the testing in major areas and major cities, but so many of the rural areas, so many of the outlying areas, they don't have the test. They have to drive miles or go to 2 or 3 counties away just to even get a test. And I mean, to me, that was just unfathomable, but it really is. So that has been part of the problem. But also, when you negate the, leave out the free markets, once again, it wasn't the government, but I know one example is Abbott Laboratories. They came up with
Kevin, I'm going to have to stop you there, buddy. We have to go to a break now, but we will be back in just a few minutes to continue this conversation. Talk to you soon.
The power. WYSL. More powerful 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. For tonight, mostly cloudy. Could be a couple of rain or snow showers. Windy at times in the 30s on Friday. A little snow in the air, especially in the morning. Could be a coating to an inch, especially south of Rochester on those grassy surfaces. That'll taper off in the afternoon. A cold day. 30s, low 40s on Saturday. Back to a little partial sunshine, but still a bit brisk with temperatures in the 40s. I'm Rich Cadelia, WYSL.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
What does the Bible say about abortion? God emphasized human dignity by becoming human, and even more overwhelmingly by substituting himself for us at the cross to buy our lives back from sin and death. In so doing, Jesus became our Good Samaritan. Now in our gratitude, Christians seek his pleasure by obeying his charge to go and do likewise for the most vulnerable of society. The church tells the world through its pro-life stance and its presence at the Walk for Life that abortion is unjust toward the baby and unnecessary for any woman. The Walk for Life invites others to follow in Jesus' steps, our Good Samaritan, demonstrating that all people are equally valuable and deserving of blessing and protection, both mom and baby. This Real Abortion News Update is sponsored by Compass Care. Join the pro-life community at compasscarewalk.com.
There's a place in the village of Avon you and your critters will love. Whether they're big or small, whether they've got hair, fur, or feathers, Avon Feed fits every need. There's a full selection of pet foods for dogs and cats, bird feeders, suet, and dry shod boots and garden shoes. They've got grass and clover seed too. Check out their frequent flyer birdseed program. Buy 10 bags of birdseed, get the next bag free. Choose farm feeds and great equine products like Blue Seal and Nutrina, plus Pull and Grains. Everything for your pet from feeding bowls to toys, leads, collars, and tie-outs. Avon Feed and Supply has what the big pet chain stores will never have. Tim Cole and his great knowledgeable staff. And if you think you'll save money at that pet superstore, well, think again. While you're at Avon Feed, don't forget the two-legged pets with River Rat Thousand Island cheese and great flavors including hard-to-find Mean and Nasty. Plus, once again, Nut Butters, Nunde Mustards, and Rickles Pickles. Open weekdays 9 to 6, Saturday 9 to 4. Avon Feed and Supply. West Main Street at the bottom of the hill, just west of the Circle.
Escape from the everyday to a getaway at Woodcliff Hotel and Spa. Woodcliff features elegantly appointed accommodations, creative cuisine, themed suites, full-service spa Elan, and is Rochester's best venue for outdoor wedding receptions overlooking the city skyline. Woodcliff Hotel and Spa, where the experience is extraordinary. Located in Fairport, call 585-381-4000 or visit woodcliffhotelspa.com.
As the Word tells us that all things are to be done decently and in order, we all have a desire to be more organized. Get Organized has been helping their clients effectively organize their living spaces with custom closets, pantries, garage storage systems, and more for over 30 years. Get Organized can be reached online at www.closetsrochester.com or by phone at 585-223-3646. Get Organized with ClosetsRochester.com today.
Did you know that the Mary Cariola Center has 6 residences that 44 individuals call home? The Community Services Residential Program has long been recognized for groundbreaking therapies and services. Mary Cariola opened the first group residence outside New York City in 1979 for children with severe developmental and physical disabilities. They also opened the first residence in the state for children with severe behavioral challenges. To learn more, volunteer, work, or donate, visit marycariola.org.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for the day. Thanks again for joining us, and we are joined by Kevin Fortune, who is a libertarian activist in the state of Georgia, and we're talking about some of the testing issues. And the thing I think about with these issues, too, is I'm curious, here in the Rochester region, we have several labs that are willing and capable of both producing tests and being able to do the tests themselves. And it's interesting to see that we're still rationing the test quite a bit as well. And I'm wondering if that is, again, a lack of supply caused by, CDC issues and FDA issues. I think mostly CDC issues in this case, or if it's the government lagging in being able to respond to this crisis where the rationing doesn't make sense. But, I don't really know. I'm not involved in those health systems. But something I was thinking about during the break is, is this government still failing to respond to this situation effectively, or is there still the inability to be able to produce and distribute tests effectively? Or worse, something that I saw earlier today, the federal government, FEMA, is seizing supplies from hospital systems. Now, I don't know that this happened in the Rochester area, but I did see it happen to the Boston area hospital system, California area hospital systems, Washington State area hospital systems, where medical supplies, including testing and personal protective equipment, was taken by the feds, and who knows what got done with that. Kevin, have you been following that story?
Just a little bit. But just to pick up where we left off before the break, which goes into what you're saying, one of the solutions to this would be the free markets. If the government would get out the way and allow these private companies to go ahead, and I was using an example of Abbott Labs, they created a very successful 5-minute testing thing. These private companies, they have the money, they have the research, they have the staff, and that's what they're in business for. But the government wants to get into areas that they're not equipped and have failed at previously and presently. So that has been a thing. Also, I've noticed they're starting private company. I think CVS is one of them to have the drive-through testing facilities, and they're one of the pilot programs is here in Atlanta. So we really don't need the government in areas that they're not equipped to handle. The private companies would do it much better and have shown us that they're doing it much better. But government regulations, like you said, protocol, and just the authoritarianism of the government, they're messing things up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's, again, something we have to continue watching out for. The CVS thing is interesting because I live right around the corner from a CVS that has a drive-through window. Like, I wonder, is that a place that could be a drive-through testing facility? And you've seen, videos of these. They're especially prominent in places like South Korea, but I know they do have a few set up throughout New York State, but I don't know of any that are in the Rochester area right now. There might be some, and I'm sure someone's going to comment in and tell me where they are. But, getting the government out of the way and making that as easy as possible for the private industry that knows what they're doing. Again, these are professionals who this is what their expertise is, to just move ahead and start allowing testing. The barrier to that ends up being government. Why is government getting more in the way in an emergency?
Right. And to answer the second part of your question about them seizing things, that's just like our government. They want to take control and take over. And this is really, once again, the bigger picture and the really scary part to me that, they are, they say if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And if they take if they start taking medical supplies, what else will they begin to take? Once the government starts, they don't stop. And this is something that the biggest complaint I'm hearing from people and concern I have, they're infringing on people's liberties. They are, taking companies' products, taking hospital supplies, but they also are infringing on people's liberties. And the biggest issue here in Georgia has been on the religious freedom. Of course, we want to protect Sorry?
I said, yeah. I remember before the show we were talking about this with the religious freedom thing. Go on. Yeah.
They want to, we want to protect people's health and be wise, things like that. But they are actually, they've closed all the churches. They've closed in, no funerals and all that, which makes sense. But what about people's individual rights and freedom? I agree with some of the mandates to close or social distancing, but it still should be some voluntary, consent in that. But when you start, dictating, mandating, and actually arresting people, there have been several preachers around the South specifically that have been arrested, churches that have been, literally the police come in and close them down. That is becoming a military regime to me. And that is what is really scary. And a lot of people are starting to question that. But of course, the government, you don't let any crisis go without taking advantage of it. And, this is an opportunity to infringe upon people's liberties and to take over people's, what religious freedom when you're arrested or closed down, where's your religious freedom in that?
Yeah, and I'm trying to find the story right now. I know there's a pastor who was arrested for this, and again, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I generally think that's a good idea for people to kind of spend some time apart and try to reduce the spread of a very serious disease. But what does it mean for a country that has freedom of religion? Which we again, the First Amendment doesn't give us that freedom of religion, but it does limit the government in our ability to be able to both assemble and worship freely. What does it mean when police are able to come in and arrest people for holding a church service?
And where does it stop? If they come into a church, will they come into your home without a warrant or without, infringing, like you said, your right to assemble? Will they come into your business? Where does it? And that's why I'm piggybacking.
Well, I mean, yes.
Where does it stop?
Yeah, I mean, they already are. Coming into our businesses too. Like there's a gun shop near me that's getting closed down. They were trying to operate for as long as they could, and they were shut down. Someone called the state on them, and they said, hey, if you don't stop operating immediately, that they'll send in the state police to shut down the business and revoke their license to be able to sell firearms. And people would argue maybe that's not essential business. I certainly wouldn't make that argument, but I know the state's making that argument. What right does the government have to do that? And where should the line be drawn between voluntary social distancing and the use of government force? And we're seeing that actually, on the similar line of thinking is that New York State, the fines for gathering for breaking social distancing laws are going from $500 to $1,000, and in some localities $2,000 for breaking that. Is that happening in Georgia?
The governor. I don't know if it actually has happened, but I know when the governor actually announced his proposals, which was really late into the pandemic, which was the problem. He did mention that if people violated these rules, his executive orders, that they would be dealt with, and he did mention possibly fine or imprisonment. I don't know if they've actually done that here in Georgia as of yet, but I do know that they do have a lot more police out. I was downtown up there. I had to go to get some a prescription, and I actually saw police cars parked on the corners, and they actually have some of the post offices open, but they actually have police and security guards outside limiting the number. So we are starting to see, and like I said, once again, I don't disagree with some of the health, the concerns and some of the wise practices, but it's the force. When you start infringing on people's rights and the forcing, and when you use military or guns to enforce that, that becomes a problem in the land of liberty and freedom.
Yeah, and again, it's a very different thing to say, please don't gather in groups. Please do what you can to make sure we can stop the spread of disease, than it is to actually use the police and they use, the violence of the state to do that. And, I know at least in New York State, Governor Cuomo said, well, people aren't respecting social distancing laws. So he was calling on the NYPD to be more aggressive, particularly in the city, but he's be more aggressive in going after people who are violating the social distancing rules. And I think after a while that gets ugly. I think people are going to be somewhat compliant at first, but as this goes on for weeks or even months, it's not going to look pretty as people start to do more and more to resist social distancing rules, and they want to get out and be free and just live their lives. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes here on Radio Free New York. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. We'll be back after our final break.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
The Livingston County Department of Health needs volunteers for the Medical Reserve Corps. If you're an active or retired licensed healthcare professional or just a community member who wants to help, we need you. Put your skill and energy to work improving emergency response. Free education and training provided. Work with peers in critical settings. Make a difference in your community. Google the Livingston County Department of Health and email us, including MRC in the subject line, or call 243-7524.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
Okay, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by Kevin Fortune, a libertarian activist from Georgia. And, Kevin, I think we've talked a lot about stuff that has gone wrong. There's a lot of goofy stuff that's happening in relation to the coronavirus response, but Kevin, you're a man of action. You're a guy who I know you tell me a lot. Don't just complain about stuff. Don't just send out a bunch of hot air. Even though I'll try not to take it personally as a radio host, but don't just put out a lot of hot air. You got to do some stuff to make the world a better place. So Kevin, what should good libertarians, conservatives, or any other decent-hearted American be doing in this situation to make things better, either from a policy level or from, just an individual action level?
Great question, Kev. Actually, first, I do want to say first and foremost, I do think that we should practice some safety and some great wisdom with our health as concerned to our health. We have these bodies that God has given us. Let's take care of them. I'm not promoting that we don't follow, wise advice or anything. But once again, let's listen to scientists, listen to medical doctors, listen to professionals, not just government agencies or politicians. So I do suggest, practice wise health. But the second thing is when we go to vote, remember these asinine, how do you say idiot in a nice way? Some of these politicians that are really messing things up and not being wise, that are infringing upon our liberties. Remember them. For some reason, we continue to vote the same people in office. We're seeing both major parties, the Democrats, we're still seeing them play party politics. We're still seeing them showboat, grandstand. We're especially seeing the Democrats who just want more bigger government. Remember this when we go to vote. When we go to make our policy decisions, let's work on not having so much big government, and let's get back to the free market system and economy. Support companies that support that, support candidates that support that, no matter what the label they have. If it's a libertarian, you've never voted libertarian, vote for one because of what they stand for and what they're promoting, not just based on the name. But I do want to say you're going to love this, Kevin, speak up. Call in the radio shows. Let your voice be heard. What I'm hearing and what I've seen so long is people, they criticize on social media or, in somebody's house on the phone. But speak up in public and let the public know, let the government officials know that we're not satisfied. Send them a letter. Get on some shows. I run a really great podcast called The Liberty Show with Kevin Fortune. You can find it on YouTube.
I was waiting for the promo.
Well, this Saturday, I forgot. I did want to mention that this Saturday we are talking about the coronavirus and the government's handling of it. We'll be taping Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And one of our special guests is going to be the world-renowned Mr. Kevin Wilson. And we have another great libertarian, Michelle Darnell, who is in Seattle, Washington, where one of the hot spots at the beginning was. And she saw the failure of the government from day one. And she's a really great person. She's ran as a libertarian candidate and really got in several runoffs because she got so many votes. So we're going to have these guys from both ends of the country talk about this firsthand. And just as a promo, if anybody wants to call in, go to our Facebook page or Instagram page, and you'll see the Zoom login information. But I do want to raise
Facebook page
our voice. The Liberty Show podcast with Kevin Fortune.
Yep,
right.
There we go.
So I just want people to raise their voice. Often, Kevin, in your, not defense, but to promote you guys in your show, that you guys are giving a voice to people, and that is really important. It's important to give a live voice. A lot of times, social media is good, but I call it sometimes a dead voice, or you're just preaching to the choir. But when you have radio shows like this one that I think is awesome in our podcast, we give a voice that, the average citizen can speak out. A lot of times, the news media, they don't, promote everybody's viewpoints. They just have the major parties or, politicians or famous or rich people. But you guys' show, which I think is so awesome, our podcast, they give a voice to the average citizen. So raise your voice. Vote for the right people. Spend your money with the right people. Spend your money with companies that promote free market, free market economies. Support organizations, parties, radio shows, podcasts, organizations that support what you believe in. Help them. These will really help us make a difference. And then show up at these town hall meetings. Now it's hard, we have these social distance, but a lot of them are still being held online or, via Zoom or YouTube or something like that. But show up and make your voice known. Put your liberty into action.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of great points, and I think one of the big takeaways from that too, and I can get in this bubble is just making sure that you're not talking to just your inner circle all the time. You're not just talking to the people who already understand it. How do you reach out and kind of expand that audience and engage with new people and engage in the people who are, for better or worse, the decision makers, right? How do we connect with the state assembly members, Senate, House members who are making these decisions on how we respond to these crises and how we prepare for these crises in the future, but also how they allow the individual people and companies to respond to these crises too. Because again, it's not just a matter of like how is the government going to respond. It's also how the government allows or prohibits private companies to respond too, and individuals. So I did get another question. So people are asking about Theranos in regards to allowing companies to be able to just move forward with testing. Kevin, have you heard of that? I know we only got a couple minutes left, but did you hear about that?
I've heard
company?
of it. I haven't researched it thoroughly. You might be more abreast on me, but I just know that a lot of it has been the government regulations and permission to do that. The government, they want to be the savior. So whatever happens, they want to get the credit and the glory at the, once again, at the death, literally death or health death of our nation. So to answer the question, I'm not as familiar with that, but I do know a lack of the testing is, they have to give you permission, they have to approve it, and all of these processes and regulations and things like that.
Yeah, and Dan's question, I think, is in regards to Theranos, which kind of got a little bit ahead, and they were allowed to move forward with a product, a blood testing product that wasn't effective. It just didn't work. It was endorsed by people like Joe Biden. It was endorsed by they had Henry Kissinger and General Mattis on their board. There's all these like political people who were able to kind of push the process forward. And I think it's something to look out for in this situation too, when you have cronyism to be able to push forward ineffective solutions too quickly sometimes, that the politically connected are able to move ahead while the actual innovators sometimes get caught up in the bureaucracy of the CDC or the FDA and aren't able to try out these solutions with willing participants too. There's the right to try laws are incredibly important in this country, and I think it's incredibly important right now. People should be able to voluntarily participate in some of these studies to be able to find solutions to coronavirus, and oftentimes the government gets in the way of that. With good intentions, but
great point.
Maybe.
The cronyism once again is just so blatant here. It brings up several great points real quickly. One is just the communication we're getting from our government officials. Nationally, even the president was promoting certain medicines or whatever that like you said, once, there was no proven evidence from the scientists or the medical professions that it worked. But I've also known how something that they have mentioned a lot of particular companies. The president's mentioned specific corporations, and then the next day their stock goes way up, or companies that have famous people, once you sit on their boards or as spokesmen, they're getting the contract. Once in the government gives contracts to certain companies or certain, colleges or universities instead of the free market system where, that would do it a lot better.
No, great point, and definitely a lot to think about. Now, I know we have just a few seconds left, so Kevin Fortune, a libertarian activist from Georgia. Again, remind people where they can find you, Kevin.
You can find me on the Liberty Podcast with Kevin Fortune. We're on YouTube. We're on Anchor. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple iTunes, all of the above. You can go to our The Liberty Show with Kevin Fortune podcast on Facebook as well as Instagram.
All right, so all those great places to find you. And, of course, I will be on that show on Saturday, too, so check out what I have to say about this. But, again, Kevin Fortune, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having this this radio show that people can tune in and hear the truth. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, that's all we got for Radio Free New York today. We will be back tomorrow. Talk to you then.
I'm Las from Action Towing and Service.